time to talk about the future. And there are a couple really big trends that I personally think are super interesting, so I wanted to share them with you. As we start to talk about what's happening in digital, and we're going to remember that it's not about doing digital, it's about being digital. These three things are going to be really important, especially as you start working on strategies moving forward. The first big trend that is really starting to present, to be here and be real, is this idea of the autonomous enterprise. At Constellation Research, we love talking about the autonomous enterprise. In fact, we've been talking about it for a really long time, even when it was just a glimmer. But what's happening is we're not talking about simple automation. This isn't about making something run by a machine or maybe one workflow start to happen automatically. This is about having a truly autonomous enterprise that starts to take some of those mundane, everyday, repeatable tasks off the plates of our most important resource, that being our people. So how do we make sure that we know our business and our customer so well that we can start to predict what those workflows are going to be, and we can start to actually accelerate our decision velocity so that we're moving ahead of where the market's going to move? The autonomous enterprise actually starts to look at what might be slowing that down, but it also starts to look at how can we actually be ahead of the curve? How do we actually make decisions faster than our human counterparts can possibly do it? When we start to hear about things like AI, ML, all of the alphabet soup, we have to really embrace that now, because things like augmented intelligence, artificial intelligence, whatever we want to call it today, are all about taking out that very human reality, which is we just can't make decisions fast enough. We can't keep up with where all of our customers want to be. The autonomous enterprise gets us there. The second thing we're really looking at is a new way of storytelling. So trend number 2 I want to share with you: how do we actually tell stories in this new digital age of personalization and omnipresence? There's a little thing that studios like Disney or Marvel do. It's a thing called transmedia storytelling. It's the ability to take a really big story and bring it down into smaller pieces to where every single one of those pieces can be consumed completely alone. You can watch an episode of a story. You can read a comic book. You can see a commercial. You could watch a whole movie. You could experience all of it in the progress, at the pace, the scale that you want to. Now, we all love this, right? Who hasn't just gone in and watched all the Avengers? But I bet you didn't do it in the exact same order that the person standing next to you did. That's transmedia storytelling. And all brands are going to need to learn how to do it, because that's how consumers want to tell their own stories, but it's how they want to learn about you. Are you looking at those composable architectures that allow you to deliver content so that the story that you tell can actually be co-created between you and your customer, or your employee and your partners? Transmedia storytelling is more about the infinite numbers of permutations that your story can take, because you're building it with your customer. And that brings us to probably one of the most talked about trends that's happening, but I want to talk to you about it in a little different way. The metaverse. Now, normally I tease that like a glitter cannon should go off right about now about the metaverse. And yes, to some degree, we can still cue the cannons, because it's been a lot of hype. We've heard a lot of talk about the metaverse, everything from video games to NFTs to cryptocurrency. All the things that are supposed to be in the metaverse kind of turned out to be a lot of hype. And so people have kind of stopped talking about the metaverse. But I want to tell you that the metaverse is really real, and it is starting. We're starting to see those glimpses and the glimmers of what the metaverse could be. But what could it be for a B2B organization is what I usually get asked. Here's the thing. That's where the metaverse is really emerging in some really interesting business use cases. And you have to look no further than probably the least sexy part of B2B enterprises, that being field service. We're talking about that capacity to get your expert technicians rolling onto a truck to go see some of the biggest turbines in the world. But thanks to the metaverse and that shared immersion between not just the equipment and the tech, but all of the experts, not only within an organization, but externally, to be able to meet in one space and solve a problem. That's the core promise of the metaverse. So when we're talking about the metaverse, what we're really talking about is that space of shared immersion. And as a brand, we need to be ready to have those spaces available. Do we have the data, the systems, the content, the people that have access to those tools so that we can co-create, not just with our customers, but with our partners, with the entire ecosystem? The metaverse is coming. You might have to walk through lots of different doors in order to figure out where your space in the metaverse is. But the reality is we need to start building that foundation today. Because when we start to think of all three of these trends, the trend of automation and the autonomous enterprise, the trend of transmedia storytelling, and the trend of the metaverse, they all come together at a very critical point where digital, you, and your customer meet.